I've been betrayed twice in my life. The first time was by a woman I planned to marry who decided my career was more important to me than she was. She was probably right, and I survived it. The second time was by someone in my own command who sold out my entire team to the enemy for reasons I'm still trying to understand. That betrayal killed 3 of my brothers, nearly killed the rest of us, and set in motion a chain of events that would end with me standing over a traitor's body with a smoking pistol in my hand. This is the story of how Trident Team died, and how we came back from hell to make the bastard who killed us pay for it. My name is Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cross, and I led Trident Team, 8 of the finest maritime special operators the Navy ever produced. We'd done 3 combat deployments together, run missions across 4 continents, and built the kind of trust that only comes from watching each other's backs in places where one mistake means everyone dies. Senior Chief Mike Reaper Torres, my second in command, 15 years in special operations, the guy who'd pulled me out of a burning building in Kandahar and never let me forget it. Dark sense of humor, tactical genius, loyal to a fault. Chief Petty Officer David Smoke Patterson, breacher and demolitions expert, former college football player who could kick down a reinforced door or defuse a bomb with equal skill. Built like a tank, gentle with kids, absolute monster in a firefight. Petty Officer First Class Jackson Doc Hayes, combat medic, former paramedic who decided saving lives in war zones was his calling. Saved more operators than anyone could count, including me twice. Petty Officer First Class Ryan Bishop Chun, sniper and reconnaissance specialist, could hit targets at distances that seemed impossible, patient as stone, never missed. Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Havoc Williams, communications and electronic warfare specialist, could hack enemy networks or coordinate air support with equal ease, constantly making jokes even in combat. Petty Officer Second Class Alex Nomad Rodriguez, combat diver and underwater demolitions, grew up surfing in California, joined the Navy at 18, never regretted it. And Petty Officer Third Class Tyler Cowboy McKenzie, our youngest operator, door kicker and assault specialist, earned his call sign by riding a mechanical bull in a Texas bar for 8 seconds while drunk and then doing it again sober just to prove it wasn't luck. We were good. Maybe the best team in Naval Special Warfare Group 2, which is probably why Admiral Richard Garrett personally selected us for what he called the most critical mission of the year. We should have known something was wrong when he said that. The briefing took place in a SCF at Naval Station Norfolk. Maximum security, minimal personnel. Just us, Admiral Garrett, and a civilian intelligence officer who introduced himself as Mr. Stone. Gentlemen, Garrett began, pulling up satellite imagery on the secure display. What you're about to see is classified top secret/SCI. 3 days ago, we intercepted communications indicating that a high-value weapons dealer named Dmitry Volkov is meeting with terrorist cell leaders in the Republic of Kazran. Kazran, a failed state on the Caspian Sea, former Soviet territory, now a lawless zone controlled by warlords and criminal syndicates. We'd operated there before. Ugly place, unstable government, corruption at every level. Volkov is selling advanced surface-to-air missiles, Stone continued. The kind that can bring down commercial aircraft. If this deal goes through, we're looking at potential terrorist attacks across Europe and possibly North America. Bishop studied the imagery. What's the mission parameter? Capture or eliminate? Eliminate, Garrett said flatly. Volkov, his security detail, and anyone present at the meeting. We need to send a message that selling weapons to terrorists has consequences. Reaper leaned forward. Sir, this looks like a compound in the middle of hostile territory. What's our exfil plan? You'll insert via Halo, jump 20 kilometers out, move overland to the target compound, execute the strike, and extract to a pre-designated landing zone where helicopters will be waiting. What about hostile forces in the area? I asked. Minimal, Stone said. Local warlords have an understanding with Volkov. They leave him alone. He leaves them alone. You should have a clear operational window. Something about that felt wrong. Warlords don't just ignore valuable targets in their territory. But I pushed the concern aside. We were professionals. We trusted the intelligence. First mistake. Timeline. I asked. You insert tomorrow night. The meeting is scheduled for 2,300 hours. You have a 6-hour window to reach the compound, execute, and extract. Rules of engagement? Garrett's expression hardened. Weapons free. Anyone in that compound is a legitimate target. No survivors, no witnesses. Cowboy grinned. Sounds like a party. This isn't a game, petty officer, Garrett said sharply. This is a strategic strike against a critical threat. You execute with precision and you get out clean. Understood. Yes, sir, Cowboy said, losing the grin. We spent the next 18 hours planning. Routes, contingencies, equipment checks, rehearsals. Everything by the book. Everything perfect. We had no idea we were planning our own execution. The Halo jump went flawlessly. High altitude, low opening. We jumped at 25,000 feet, free fell to 3,000 feet, deployed chutes, and landed in the Kazran wilderness 20 kilometers from the target. Silent, invisible, professional. The overland movement was harder. Rough terrain, limited visibility, constant awareness that we were deep in hostile territory with no support except what we carried. But we'd done this before. 6 hours to cover 20 kilometers through enemy terrain? Standard operation. We reached the compound perimeter at 2,245 hours. 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The compound was a collection of buildings surrounded by a concrete wall, guard towers at the corners, security patrols visible through our night vision. Nomad, Cowboy, take the south wall, I ordered quietly. Smoke, Reaper, north approach. Bishop, find me a perch with clear sight lines. Doc, Havoc, you're with me. We go in hard and fast on my mark. The team moved into position. Bishop found a rocky outcropping 300 meters out with perfect overwatch. Nomad and Cowboy reached the south wall. Smoke and Reaper positioned on the north side. Everything was perfect. Textbook operation. All elements. This is Trident 1. I whispered into my mic. Stand by for breach in 60 seconds. That's when the world exploded. Mortars started falling before anyone could react. Not random fire. Precise, targeted strikes hitting exactly where my team was positioned. The south wall erupted in flames. I heard Cowboy scream through the radio, cut off by static. Contact. We're taking mortar fire. Reaper's voice, urgent and controlled despite the chaos. Machine gun fire opened up from positions we hadn't identified. Hidden positions, prepared positions, waiting for us. Tracer rounds cut through the darkness like angry fireflies. This wasn't minimal hostile presence. This was a prepared ambush. Break contact. All elements fall back. I was already moving, dragging Havoc with me as explosions walked across our position. Doc was right behind us, returning fire at muzzle flashes. Bishop's voice cut through the chaos. Boss, I count at least 40 hostiles, maybe more. They knew we were coming. Another mortar round hit 20 meters away. The concussion threw me to the ground. My ears rang, vision blurred, but training took over. I rolled, found cover, tried to get accountability. Sound off. All elements sound off. Reaper hit, but mobile. Smoke, operational. Doc, I'm good. Bishop, covering. Havoc, moving. Nomad, static. Then, Nomad hit. I'm hit bad. Cowboy, do you copy? Silence. Cowboy, more silence. My heart was ice. Bishop, do you have visual on Cowboy's position? Negative, boss. That wall took a direct hit. If he was there, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. Reaper, get Nomad. Everyone else, fighting withdrawal to rally point Alpha. Move now. We moved through hell. Mortars falling, machine guns tracking us, enemy forces closing in from multiple directions. This wasn't a security detail protecting a weapons dealer. This was a military operation designed to kill us. We'd been set up. Rally Point Alpha was a dried riverbed 3 kilometers from the compound. We reached it 30 minutes later, 30 minutes of running, fighting, and bleeding. When we finally collapsed into cover, I did a head count. 6 of us. Down from 8. Cowboy was gone. Dead in the initial mortar strike, we had to assume. And Nomad. Doc was working on him desperately. Shrapnel wounds across his torso, broken leg, internal bleeding. Bad. Really bad. How long does he have? I asked quietly. Doc looked up at me, and I saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. Without a hospital? Hours. Maybe less. Nomad grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong despite the blood loss. Boss, they knew. They knew exactly where we'd be. I know. Someone sold us out. I know. I said again, and the rage in my chest was cold and black and absolute. Reaper appeared next to me, blood running down the side of his face from a head wound. Boss, we've got problems. I'm picking up radio chatter. Local forces are organizing a sweep. They're hunting us. How long until our exfil window? He checked his watch. 4 hours. But the landing zone is 12 kilometers from here through hostile territory. And they know we're heading there. Of course they knew. Because whoever sold us out had given them everything. Our route, our objectives, our extraction plan. Havoc, I called. Can you reach command? Let them know we need emergency extraction. Havoc was already working his communications equipment. After a minute, he shook his head. Negative, boss. Someone's jamming our frequencies. I can't get through. Smoke slammed his fist against the ground. This is bullshit. They set us up, they're jamming our comms, and now they're hunting us like animals. Stay focused, I said, forcing calm into my voice even though I wanted to scream. We're not dead yet. Bishop, what's our tactical situation? Bishop had been glassing the area with his scope. I count 3 separate groups moving toward our position. Maybe 60 fighters total, coordinated movement. They'll have us surrounded in 20 minutes. Then we need to move. Doc, can Nomad travel? Doc had finished bandaging the worst of Nomad's wounds. I can stabilize him for movement. But he needs a hospital soon, boss. Real soon. We'll get him to 1. I promise. I looked at my team, bloodied, exhausted, betrayed, but still ready to fight. Here's what we're going to do. We can't reach the original landing zone. They'll be waiting there. So we improvise. Havoc, is there any way to get a signal out? Anything at all. If I can get to higher ground and bypass the jamming with a burst transmission, maybe. But it would have to be short. They'll triangulate the source. How short? 10 seconds. Maybe 15. Can you encode our position and situation in that time? I can try. I pulled out my map, studying the terrain. There's a ridge line 2 kilometers east. High ground, clear sight lines. Havoc, you get up there and send the signal. Tell command we were ambushed, need immediate extract, and... I paused, thinking about what else needed to be in that message. Tell them someone in the command structure is compromised. Someone sold us out. Reaper looked at me sharply. Boss, you're accusing someone in our own chain of command of treason. Because someone in our chain of command committed treason. They knew our route, our timing, our positions. That information came from our briefing. From someone who was in that room. The implications settled over the team like a weight. Someone we trusted, someone we served under, had sent us into an ambush. We figure out who later, I said. Right now, we survive. Havoc, you send that message. The rest of us will provide security and keep moving east. If we can make it to the Caspian coast, we might be able to steal a boat and get out of Kazran entirely. That's a hell of a long shot, boss, Smoke said. Right now, long shots are all we have. We move through the darkness like ghosts, carrying Nomad on a makeshift litter. Every sound was a potential threat, every shadow a possible enemy. The hunters were close. We could hear them calling to each other, coordinating their search. The ridge line was steeper than the map suggested. Havoc scrambled up with his communications gear while the rest of us established a defensive perimeter. Bishop found a position with clear fields of fire. Smoke and Reaper covered the approaches. "I'm set," Havoc called down. "Give me 2 minutes to configure the transmission." Those were the longest 2 minutes of my life. Every second, expecting to hear gunfire, to see enemy forces converging on our position. But we stayed hidden, stayed quiet, stayed professional. "Transmitting now," Havoc said. I counted the seconds. 10, 15, 20. "Signal sent," Havoc said. "And we've got company. I'm seeing vehicle lights about a kilometer out, heading this way." "Get down here. We're moving." We humped east through rough terrain, Nomad drifting in and out of consciousness, Doc constantly monitoring his vitals. The enemy was behind us, probably tracking our movement, definitely closing the distance. Then Havoc's radio crackled. Not the enemy frequency, our encrypted channel. "Trident team, this is Overwatch. We received your transmission. Confirm your situation." Overwatch, the tactical operations center that coordinated our missions. The same command structure that had sent us into this ambush. I grabbed the radio from Havoc. "Overwatch, Trident 1. We were ambushed at the target location. Heavy casualties, being pursued by hostile forces. We need immediate extraction." "Copy, Trident 1. Stand by for tasking." "Stand by?" "We were dying out here, and they wanted us to stand by." "Overwatch, we don't have time to stand by. We have critically wounded, limited ammunition, and enemy forces closing on our position. We need extraction now." There was a pause. Then a different voice came through. "Admiral Garrett." "Commander Cross, this is Admiral Garrett. What is your situation?" Something in his voice made my blood run cold. Too calm, too controlled, like a man who already knew exactly what was happening. "Admiral, we were ambushed. Someone leaked our operational details to the enemy. We need—" "Commander, I need you to listen very carefully," Garrett interrupted. "You are currently in violation of operational security protocols. Your transmission was not authorized. You will maintain radio silence and proceed to the designated extraction point." "Sir, with respect, the extraction point is compromised. The enemy is waiting there. If we go—" "That's an order, Commander. Proceed to the extraction point." Garrett out. The radio went dead. I stood there, staring at the handset, understanding flooding through me like ice water. Garrett. It was Garrett who'd sold us out. "Boss." Reaper was watching me, seeing the realization on my face. "What just happened?" "We're on our own," I said quietly. "Garrett's the traitor, and he just ordered us to walk into another trap. We abandoned the extraction plan entirely. If Garrett wanted us dead, and he clearly did, then following any part of his operational orders would get us killed. We needed to go completely off script." "New plan," I said, gathering the team. "We make for the Caspian coast. It's 20 kilometers, rough terrain, and we'll be moving through hostile territory the entire way. But if we can reach the water, we can steal a boat and make for international waters." "Boss, Nomad can't make 20 kilometers, Doc said quietly. I looked at Nomad, pale and barely conscious on the litter. "Then we carry him. We don't leave people behind. Ever." Bishop spoke up. "What about Cowboy? If there's any chance he survived." "He didn't," Smoke said flatly. "I saw that wall get hit. Nobody survived that." The words hung in the air. Cowboy, the youngest member of our team, the kid who'd earned his trident less than a year ago, was gone. And Garrett had killed him. "We make Garrett pay," I said. "But first, we survive. Move out." The next 12 hours were hell. We moved through mountains and valleys, avoiding roads, avoiding settlements, staying invisible. Enemy patrols were everywhere. They weren't just hunting us anymore. They were saturating the area with forces. Nomad crashed twice. Both times, Doc brought him back with emergency drugs and pure determination. But we all knew he was running out of time. We reached the coast as the sun was rising. The Caspian Sea stretched before us, gray and cold and beautiful. And in a small fishing village 2 kilometers down the beach, I could see boats. Smoke, Bishop, recon that village, I ordered. Find us a boat that can make it to international waters. Havoc, see if you can pick up any radio traffic. I want to know if they're looking for us here. Doc, do whatever you can for Nomad. Reaper, you're with me. Reaper followed me to a rocky outcropping overlooking the beach. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 operators who'd survived the impossible, watching the sun rise over a sea that might be our salvation or our grave. Why? Reaper finally asked. Why would Garrett do this? I don't know. Money? Blackmail? Ideology? Does it matter? It matters to me. We trusted him. Cowboy died trusting him. Yeah, I said. He did. Bishop's voice came through the radio. Boss, we found a boat. Fishing trawler, looks seaworthy. Only problem is the village. I count about 30 military-age males, armed. This might be a militia staging area. Can we take them? 6 operators against 30? On a good day, maybe. But we're not having a good day. He was right. We were exhausted, low on ammunition, and carrying a critically wounded teammate. A straight fight would get us killed. Then we don't fight. I said. We steal the boat and we run. Smoke, how long to get that trawler ready to sail? If it's fueled and maintained? 10 minutes. If we have to prep it? 30. We don't have 30. Bishop, can you create a distraction? Something that pulls those fighters away from the dock. I can shoot a propane tank on the far side of the village. Should create a nice fire. Do it. When they respond to the fire, we take the boat. Simple, fast, clean. Since when is anything we do simple? Reaper muttered. The explosion was spectacular. Bishop put a round through a propane tank at a fuel depot on the north end of the village, and the resulting fireball drew every fighter in the area. They ran toward the flames, shouting, trying to organize a response. We ran toward the boat. Smoke reached it first, firing up the engine while Nomad was carried aboard by Doc and Havoc. Bishop provided overwatch from his position, picking off anyone who got too close. Reaper and I cast off the lines. The engine roared to life. We pulled away from the dock just as the fighters realized what was happening. Gunfire erupted, rounds pinging off the hull, shattering windows. But we were moving, gaining speed, heading for open water. Bishop made his run to the boat under covering fire from the rest of us. He dove off the dock, swam the last 20 meters, and we hauled him aboard dripping wet and grinning. That was fun, he said. You have a weird definition of fun, Havoc said. We motored into the Caspian Sea, leaving Kazran behind. The gunfire faded. The village disappeared into the distance. For the first time in 16 hours, we weren't being actively hunted. Doc was still working on Nomad below deck. I went down to check on them. How is he? Doc looked up, exhausted and bloodstained. He's alive. Barely. But he's alive. Nomad's eyes opened. Boss. Don't talk. Save your strength. Garrett, why? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. I promise you that. Nomad nodded weakly, then slipped back into unconsciousness. I went back to the deck where Reaper was steering the boat. How far to international waters? 4 hours. Maybe 5 if we have to avoid coastal patrols. And then we figure out how to get home and expose the bastard who tried to kill us. I looked back at the Kazran coast, thinking about Cowboy, thinking about the ambush, thinking about Admiral Richard Garrett calmly giving orders that would lead to our deaths. Yeah, I said, we're going to expose him, and then we're going to make him pay. We made it to international waters and signaled a U.S. Navy destroyer on patrol. They picked us up, got Nomad to their medical facility, and put us in secure quarters while they figured out what to do with a SEAL team that had gone dark and then reappeared claiming their admiral was a traitor. The destroyer captain was a by-the-book officer who didn't know what to make of us. Commander Cross, I've received orders from Naval Special Warfare Command to transport you back to Norfolk. Admiral Garrett wants to debrief you personally. I bet he does, I said. Captain, with respect, Admiral Garrett is the reason my team was ambushed. If you hand us over to him, we'll disappear. Those are serious accusations. And they're all true. Garrett set us up. He gave our operational details to the enemy. He got one of my men killed and nearly killed the rest of us. The captain studied me. You have proof. I have a dead operator, a critically wounded operator, and a team that survived an ambush that should have killed us all. That's my proof. That's not proof, Commander. That's a tragedy. Missions go wrong, not like this. Not with perfect intelligence on our movements, our timing, our positions. Someone leaked that information, and the only people who had it were in the briefing room with Admiral Garrett. The captain was quiet for a long moment. I'll relay your concerns to the appropriate authorities. But my orders are clear. You're going back to Norfolk. Then put me in the brig, I said, because I'm not following orders from a command structure that's compromised. Commander, sir, one of my men died believing in those orders. The rest of us survived by ignoring them. I'm not making that mistake again. The captain sighed. I'll see what I can do. But you're making this very difficult. Staying alive is difficult. This is just complicated. The investigation started before we even reached Norfolk. Naval Criminal Investigative Service agents boarded the destroyer, interviewed each team member separately, and started pulling records of the mission planning. I told them everything. The briefing, the ambush, Garrett's order to proceed to a compromised extraction point, our escape. They listened, took notes, and gave away nothing. Commander Cross, the lead investigator, said, "These are serious allegations. Accusing an admiral of treason is not something we take lightly. I don't take getting ambushed lightly either. We'll need evidence. Communications records, financial data, anything that shows Admiral Garrett had contact with enemy forces. Talk to Havoc, Petty Officer Williams. He's our communications specialist. If there's electronic evidence, he can find it." They did talk to Havoc. And 3 days later, he came to me with something I hadn't expected. "Boss, I've been going through communications logs from Norfolk. There's something weird." Define weird. The mission briefing we received, the one that sent us into Kazran, it originated from Admiral Garrett's secure terminal. But the metadata shows it was created 48 hours before he officially briefed us. So he was planning it in advance. That's normal. Yeah, but here's the thing. There are communication timestamps showing someone accessed that file from an outside network. Someone not in Naval Special Warfare Command. Someone using a Kazran IP address. I stared at him. You're telling me someone in Kazran had access to our mission briefing before we even deployed? That's exactly what I'm telling you. And the access logs show multiple connections over a 2-week period. Garrett's terminal was compromised, or he gave someone access deliberately. Can you prove it? I already have. NCIS has the evidence. They're building a case. 3 days later, Admiral Richard Garrett was arrested. The charges were classified, but word leaked through the community. Espionage, conspiracy, providing material support to enemy forces. They found the evidence in his financial records. Payments from shell companies tied to Russian intelligence. Communication with contacts in Kazran. A pattern of compromised operations dating back 18 months. He'd been selling out SEAL teams for money. The trial was closed to the public. National security, classified information, all the usual excuses. But I was there for the sentencing. Admiral Richard Garrett stood in his dress uniform, stripped of insignia, and listened as the judge read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Life in prison at a military facility, no possibility of parole. He showed no emotion. Just stood there, stiff and cold, like this was happening to someone else. After the sentencing, I was allowed 5 minutes with him in a secure room. 2 guards stood outside. Just me and the man who tried to kill my team. "Why?" I asked. He looked at me with empty eyes. "Why not? You know what they pay admirals, Commander? It's a joke. 30 years of service, and I was making less than a mid-level corporate executive. The Russians were offering real money. Life-changing money. So you sold us out. You got Cowboy killed for money. Cowboy was acceptable collateral damage. You all were. The mission was never about Volkov. It was about delivering a SEAL team to the Russians so they could study your tactics, your equipment, your capabilities. You were supposed to die in that ambush. The fact that you survived complicated things. The rage I'd been holding since Kazrin threatened to explode. You sent us to die for a payday. I sent you to do your jobs. You're soldiers. Dying is part of the contract. I wanted to hit him. Wanted to kill him right there. But I didn't. Because he wasn't worth it. You're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell, I said instead. And every day, you're going to think about the men you betrayed. The operators who trusted you. The kid who died because you needed money. I'll think about the money I didn't get to spend, he said. That's what I'll think about. I left him there. Because some people aren't worth the effort of hatred. We held a memorial service for Cowboy 3 weeks later. His family was there. Parents, sister, friends from home. They wanted to know how he died. We told them he died serving his country, accomplishing a critical mission. We didn't tell them the truth. That he'd been betrayed by his own command, sold out for Russian money, killed in an ambush that should never have happened. His mother asked me if he suffered. I lied and said it was quick. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but she didn't need that burden. After the service, Trident team gathered at a bar off base. 6 of us now. Nomad had survived but would never deploy again. His injuries had ended his career. He was alive, but the team he'd bled for was finished. To Cowboy, Reaper said, raising his glass. We all raised ours. To Cowboy. We drank in silence for a while. Then Smoke spoke up. So what now? Garrett's in prison. We're down 2 operators, and the Navy's probably going to break up the team. He was right. After something like this, a compromised mission, a traitor in the command structure, they'd scatter us across different units. Trident team was done. We start over, I said. New team, new mission, same job. Because the work still needs to be done. Even after what happened? Doc asked. Especially after what happened. Garrett was one bad admiral. The rest of the Navy is still full of good people doing hard jobs. We don't let one traitor destroy everything we believe in. Bishop nodded slowly. The boss is right. Cowboy wouldn't want us to quit. No, I agreed. He wouldn't. He'd want us to keep fighting. Keep serving. Keep proving that the bad guys are the exception, not the rule. We drank to that. And to Cowboy. And to survival. Epilogue. 2 years later, I'm writing this from my new office at Naval Special Warfare Command. They promoted me to commander and gave me a position training the next generation of operators, teaching them tactics, leadership, and one critical lesson. Trust your team, question your orders, and never assume the people giving those orders are infallible. Trident team is gone, scattered across different units, different commands, different missions. But we stay in touch. Monthly emails, occasional visits. The bond that comes from surviving something that should have killed us. Nomad works as a defense contractor now. Uses his experience to train allied special operations forces. He still limps, still has nightmares about that riverbed in Kazrin, but he's alive. That's what matters. Reaper made Master Chief and leads his own team. He calls me sometimes, asking for advice, usually ignoring it, always getting the job done. He's teaching his operators the same lesson we learned. The mission is important, but bringing everyone home is more important. The others are still operating, still running missions in dark places, still doing the job. Admiral Garrett is in a military prison in Kansas. He'll die there. I don't think about him much anymore. He's not worth the mental real estate. But I think about Cowboy every day. About the kid who trusted his command, followed his orders, and died because someone valued money over lives. The Navy changed some policies after Garrett's arrest. Better oversight of flag officers, stricter financial monitoring, enhanced security protocols. They're trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I know better. There will always be people who can be bought, who can be compromised, who will betray the people who trust them. That's human nature. What matters is how we respond when it happens. Do we quit? Do we let one traitor destroy our faith in the institution? Or do we remember the good ones? The operators who have your back, The leaders who actually care about bringing everyone home. The teammates who would die before leaving you behind. I choose to remember the good ones. Because for every Garrett, there are 100 leaders who would never sell out their people. For every betrayal, there are 1,000 acts of loyalty and courage. Last week, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was Cowboy's trident, the pin that marks you as a SEAL. His mother had sent it to me with a note. Commander Cross, Tyler always talked about his team, about how much you all meant to him. I know the circumstances of his death are classified, but I also know he died with brothers who cared about him. I want you to have his trident, because I think Tyler would want it to go to the leader who brought the rest of his team home alive. Thank you for being that leader. Respectfully, Mrs. McKenzie. I put Cowboy's trident in a shadow box on my office wall, right next to mine. Every new class of operators who comes through my training program sees it, and I tell them the same thing. That trident belonged to a SEAL who trusted the wrong people and paid for it with his life. Your job is to be the right people, the ones who earn trust, the ones who never sell out a teammate for anything, the ones who remember that this isn't about glory or money or rank. It's about the person next to you in the fight. Some of them get it, some don't, but the ones who do, they're going to be the leaders who prevent the next Garrett, who build teams so tight that betrayal becomes impossible, who understand that the mission is important, but loyalty is everything. That's Cowboy's legacy. Not the way he died, but the lesson his death taught us. We survived hell. We exposed a traitor. We made him pay. But more importantly, we refused to let his betrayal break us. And that's the real victory. Admiral Garrett took one of our brothers. He tried to take all of us. He failed. Trident team might be gone, but what we stood for, loyalty, courage, refusing to leave anyone behind, that lives on in every operator I train, every mission they run, every teammate they bring home. That's what survives. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Epic Recon Stories. Here we tell the missions that never made the headlines, the decisions made in silence, and the people who carried them. More stories are coming soon.